If you're a scale model builder, then you're probably painfully aware that this hobby can be pretty expensive. By the time you've got your model kit, all the paints, and all the gear you need to get the job done, your wallet is probably asking for a break. But guess what? That doesn't have to be the case. It's really important to invest in your hobby because it's something you're passionate about. But with a few easy tricks, you can take a little bit of that pressure off your credit card. Today we're going to look at my 6 tips for saving money as a scale modeler so you can ultimately build more model kits while spending less money. If that sounds good to you, let's hop right into it. My name's Hank, this is Sprues and Brews Scale Modeling. Here we go. Alright, so before we get into tip number 1, I want to ask you guys, how many unfinished kits do you have in your stash right now? Let me know in the comments below. We're going to get to that in just a bit here. Okay, so money saving tip number 1. Do your homework. Say you're watching a YouTube documentary about Sherman tanks and you say to yourself, hey, I want to build one of those. Do not just hop on Amazon and order the first M4 kit you see, because not all model kits are made alike. Before I buy any model kit, and I mean every single time I buy a kit, I hop over to ScaleMates.com and I see what I'm getting into. If you're not aware, ScaleMates is a big old database of pretty much every scale model on the market today. It's a super powerful tool, and the most useful feature is that you can pull up any particular model kit and look at the instruction manual ahead of time. This is a really important step in the modeling process because one of the biggest ways that I see folks wasting money in this hobby is by buying kits that are way too advanced for their current skill level or are too complicated for the amount of time they want to invest in a kit right now. If you're looking for a relaxing build and you accidentally buy a model with a bunch of photo etch parts and a billion sub-assemblies, the odds of you finishing that kit are pretty slim. And now you've got a decent cash investment in a half-built kit that's just going to sit on your shelf for a long time. Now, instead of doing that, just check out the instructions before you buy anything. You might see that the kit you thought was going to be right for you looks like a little bit too much of an undertaking right now, and you can pivot and buy a less complicated kit. Shop smart, do your homework, buy the right kit for you right now, and save a little dough. That's tip number 1. Do your homework. All right, moving on to tip number 2. This one can depend a little bit on where you live, but if possible, my second money-saving tip for scale modelers is to shop small. It's really important to be a helpful member of this hobby and the scale modeling community by shopping small and supporting your local hobby store. But it's also a good way to save you a little bit of dough when you're stocking up on model kits and supplies. Odds are, if you're going to buy scale models online, you're going to end up paying a decent chunk of change on shipping in particular. Shipping for a mid-size model kit will usually start around $10, and even though that doesn't sound like a lot, it does add up over time if you're regularly ordering a lot of kits. So my recommendation is to hop on Google and search hobby shops near me or scale models near me and just see what pops up. You might not have realized it, but maybe there's a model shop in your area. Pop over there, check it out, you never know what you're going to find. They might have a great selection of kits, and you might get to chat with a store owner or some other shoppers about scale modeling. Local hobby shops can be tough to find nowadays, but it's really important to support them financially and contribute to your community if you can. By shopping small, you're also going to cut out that shipping cost, and local sellers might even have kits priced a little lower than you'd find them online. So that's my second money-saving tip for modelers. Shop small, shop local, and save a little bit of cash on shipping. Now, moving on to tip number 3. If you don't have a hobby shop in your area, then you're going to have to get your kits and supplies online. And there's nothing wrong with that. Web sellers and even the digital titans like Amazon have made this hobby more accessible for a lot of folks, which at the end of the day is a good thing. A healthy and thriving modeling community is going to keep this hobby alive for many, many years to come. But with so many sellers online, it can be tough to know if you're paying the best price for a kit that you want to pick up. So my third tip for saving money in this hobby is to comp shop or comparison shop. Remember back in tip number 1 how I mentioned ScaleMates.com? Well, it's going to help us out on this one too. Say you've settled on a kit that you really want to pick up. Let's take the Border Model BF109 in 135 scale, for example. Hop onto ScaleMates and pull up the page for that kit. And if you scroll down, you're going to find a section called Marketplace. And in that section, it's going to show you a list of a bunch of websites that currently have this particular kit in stock, as well as the price that they have it listed as. With this example, I can see that there are 3 US sellers with this kit, as well as a bunch of international options, which is great. So you can see what's the best for you depending on where you live. And I can see that Sprue Brothers has this kit listed for $79, HobbyLink has it at $81, and Hobby Nut has it at $88. Now it's not a ton, it's only a few dollars difference here, but sometimes with really popular kits, you can save quite a bit of cash just by quickly checking out this comp shopping list. So my third money-saving tip is do a quick bit of comp shopping before you buy. It only takes you a second, but it might save you a decent chunk of change at the end of the day. All right, cruising right along here. We're already up to money-saving tip number 4. And this one, I'm going to be honest with you guys, might be tough for some folks. In many, many ways, we live in a world of instant gratification. If I want to watch a movie, I could pull it up on one of my streaming services and watch it right now for just a couple of bucks. If I want a burrito, I can order one on Uber Eats and it'll be here in under an hour. But guess what? This hobby, scale modeling, is not a hobby of instant gratification. And that's part of what makes this so special. This hobby is a labor of love. It takes time and dedication to make something really special that you can put on your shelf and be proud of every time you walk by it. And if building a model takes time, then I'll argue that buying a model should take some time too. Now, I have a philosophy here that I use to help me not buy every single model I see. I used it just this weekend and it worked for me, so hopefully it works for you too. So here's the story. I finally got around to watching the new Top Gun this weekend. I know, how did I wait so long? But yes, I watched it, fantastic. And while I was watching it, I thought, oh man, I gotta build an F-14. I hopped on my favorite modeling retailer and I added one of the Tamiya F-14s to my cart. And then I remembered my tip here. And this is our money-saving tip number 4. Whenever you're gonna buy a kit online, go online, add it to your cart, and then leave it there overnight. I know, it's painful. You're thinking, but Hank, if I wait an extra day, it's gonna take an extra day for the kit to arrive, and I won't be able to work on it for another day. Yes, that's all true, but hear me out. Are you buying this kit right now because you really, really want to spend weeks dedicated to perfecting this model? Or are you just impulsively buying an F-14 because you saw Top Gun and it's cool and you want one right now? We're all guilty of this, but with scale modeling, you got to make sure that your subject is one that you really want to buckle down on and work at for a long time, because this hobby ain't quick. So to counter this, tip number 4 here is that if you want to buy a model kit, throw it in your cart and walk away for at least 24 hours. Sit on it, sleep on it. Make a plan. What are you going to do with this model? How are you going to paint it? What decals do you want to use? If you're still super excited about this kit after 24 hours, then go ahead, order away. If the excitement has waned a little bit though, then maybe hold off on this one for now. Odds are that the kit won't be going anywhere if you don't buy it right this very second. And just like that, you've saved yourself a little bit of cash by not buying another kit that's doomed to spend months and months sitting on top of your stash pile. All right, guys, we're up to money-saving tip number 5. And this one might sound a little counterintuitive at first, but hear me out. When you've settled on a kit that you want to buy and you're ready to press that place order button, take a quick second and head over to your modeling station. Check out your paints. Take a look at your plastic cement. How are the levels on everything? Are you nearly out of primer? Is your go-to bottle of olive drab almost empty? Is your Tamiya cement at the bottom of the barrel? Money-saving tip number 5 is to shop in bulk. More specifically, to order in bulk. We've already talked about shipping costs back in tip number 2 today. That $10 that you spend on shipping is going to add up with a lot of orders. So instead of ordering your model kit and then realizing after it arrives that you also need some new paints, just take a second and look at your supplies before you order. Getting one shipment with the model kit and the supplies you need is going to cost less than getting 2 separate shipments 100% of the time. If you need the paints anyway, just order them with your kit. It only takes a second to double check. So our money-saving tip number 5, order in bulk. All right, we've made it. We're all the way up to money-saving tip number 6 for scale modelers. And I'm going to warn you ahead of time, this one is going to be extremely controversial. All scale modelers know that realistically, we have 2 hobbies. We build scale models and we buy scale models. And that's why I made a mug about it. But this video is about saving money, not buying my merch. On that point though, collecting scale models and constantly growing the old model stash is something that pretty much all scale modelers are guilty of. I know I've got quite a pile going in my basement right now, waiting to be built up. So what we're going to do real quick is a little exercise. How many unopened, unstarted model kits do you have in your stash right now? I just checked, and I'm doing okay at the moment. I only have 12 on deck. Now, let's just say it takes about 2 weeks of work to build a model kit. For me, that'd be going pretty fast, but that's just the example we're going to use right now. Some folks are faster or slower than others, but let's just call it 2 weeks. That's our example. So 12 unopened kits times 2 weeks is 24 weeks of straight building. That's 6 months of work just to build all those models. Say you've got 25 kits in the stash. That's over a year's worth of work that you got to get through working on one of those models every single week. We don't need to be sitting on that many models. So my controversial money-saving tip here, and I know it's not a fun one, is to reduce the stash. And my tip for doing that is sort of a baby step. Let's limit the buying of new kits by setting a simple rule for ourselves. Every time you want to buy a new kit, you've got to finish a similar one in your stash first. You want to buy a new aircraft kit? Finish one of the aircraft kits that are already in your stash. Does that new Tamiya Panzer IV look nice? build a Panzer IV that you've already got in your stash. By doing this, you're going to at least keep the stash at its current volume, and you might find that this might give you a little kick to go rediscover an old kit that you hadn't thought about in quite a while. After all, you bought that kit for a reason at some point. Bring that excitement back. So that is my 6th money-saving tip for scale modelers. Put a little limit on your stash, and you and your wallet will be better off for it in the end. So, do you think these tips are going to help you save a little money on your hobby? I certainly hope so. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing right here to Spruce and Brew Scale Modeling for more plastic modeling tips and tricks. And until next time, my friends, be well, happy building, cheers.